Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 74 of the Productive Wellbeing Show. Should I say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you are joining us. If you are joining live, as always, please say live. Please let us know where you are. Tell us what the weather's like, because that's just the conversation that we've been having. And today is the fifth panel show, bringing back guests who have been on the show over the last 74 episodes, and we are having a conversation with them today about their two biggest lessons in business and life during lockdown, and they're also going to share their top tip with us for how they deal with uncertainty and uncertain times. So as I've said before on some of these previous episodes, huge thanks to these guys for sharing so courageously, because it is so easy for us to share the highs. And sometimes the lows and the challenges are something that we just don't really talk about. So thank you so much. We've got today on the show Daniela Glasgow, Michael Kern and Laura Coleman. And as always, our guests are only ever sharing the tip of the iceberg with you. And at the end, they're going to tell you where you can find out more about them. So please hit the like button every time they share something that is particularly vulnerable, because as I've said, it is really quite, courageous to share the highs as well as the lows. And if you are joining us on the replay, also let us know where you're joining us from, because we love seeing how global this show has got. Yesterday, we were in South Africa with some of the replays, and the day before we were in the US. So we are live on LinkedIn and Facebook. That's awesome. Oh, we are in India as well. I'm just seeing live from India. Awesome. Love it. So without further ado, let's get started. And I am going to start with you, Daniela. What would you say is your number one business and life lesson from the last 19 weeks since the Corona chapter of our lives?
The biggest one, and this is quite interesting coming from a coach as well, is the importance of self-care. So, we always hear this message, oh, it's important to take care of yourself, etc. But that really manifested for me over this period. So I'm going to share something I haven't really spoken about publicly before. So I think it was December, just about to launch the business. 2020 is going to be the best decade yet, as it most probably was for everybody. And we know COVID hit and nobody could foresee what was coming. And then let's just say, to cut a long story short, by May, I'd had 3 biopsies. So obviously it was massively important not to let any, self-doubt come into that. I'd supported somebody who was trying to end the life. I unfortunately was in the wrong place, and somebody who was having a psychotic episode kind of came at me with a 6-inch knife. So all of this was, I think it was towards the end where, I'm massively resilient anyway. I always want to help people, and I was, giving it my all. Oh, I've got to help this person, that person. And do you know what? I just had to stop. So from that, fortunately as a coach, I was in a pretty good position, because obviously over the years, there's all these tools and tips that you pick up along the way. So I'd just like to say, really, this is for anybody who, has been negatively impacted through COVID, whether that be job loss, losing somebody, experiencing, anything tumultuous. It's the biggest lesson is that self-care, just stop. So it's Stephen Covey's circle of influence. What's in your control? That was the first place I went first. Okay, so externally there were things that I couldn't control, but what I could control was my, mental, emotional and physical health. Okay, that was in my power. So that's what I did first. Looked at obviously the practical things, and then I thought, well, why am I doing this business anyway? What's it all for? I rebooted, so to speak. So ask those questions. And then it was about, looking at my existing clients as well. Obviously I didn't want anybody to know about this. So it was kind of, it's been there for them. So they were in my control. They got full service. That ended up expanding. So that's about rebooting. And then it was about re-energizing. Last time I was on your show, I spoke about the cold showers and meditation and everything. Guys, this stuff works. So with the re-energizing, it wasn't just about connecting with nature, so going for morning walks every morning. It was also about, what's going to make me feel good as well. So I've always wanted to learn the guitar. And this time, I don't know why, I picked it up. And I've just started to learn it. I cannot believe I'm doing this, but it brings me a lot of joy. Obviously, the cold showers work really good to revitalize you, and the meditation. So I up that 45 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evenings. And then, so once you're re-energized and you're in a much better space to make decisions from a space of clarity and from a space of love and just from a space of calm energy, so to speak, then it's about re-engaging. So yeah, self-care, take that time. It's okay just to stop. And within that, an abundance of opportunity comes your way. I don't know how it works, but it does. So yeah, that's my biggest message, I think. Self-care.
Amazing.
Reboot,
I love
re-engage.
it. Thank you for sharing that one. So awesome. Self-care and manifestation all in one. Let's go to you next then, Michael. What would you say has been your biggest business or life lesson over the last 19 weeks?
So I think a big thing for me has been discovering the difference between procrastination and recuperation. I'm always a million miles an hour and I absolutely love it. Every single day of the week, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. And the first 4 weeks of lockdown were great for me because I was finishing my book, which came out in the start of May. So the first 3 weeks, I was just head down, finishing this book, editing, writing, finishing off the interviews. And then all of a sudden, the book came out. We had to cancel the launch event. So we had to be a little bit creative with the marketing, but then it pretty much did everything itself. We got all the marketing right with that side of things in distribution. So all of a sudden, everyone's already been kind of slowing down for 4 weeks, but I hadn't. And then everything just stopped. All my contracts cancelled. The football got cancelled. So there was no live events to host. As I mentioned, the launch event was cancelled. So all of a sudden, I've gone from my million miles an hour, which I absolutely love, to absolute just full stop, which was great because it was an amazing time to recuperate. And normally a football season will finish and I'll go straight into presenting cricket. I'll go straight into presenting hockey and tennis. So I don't ever stop. So all of a sudden to be told, okay, there's nothing for you to do, I'm like, what do I do? So that was amazing. A real good point to recuperate, recharge the batteries. And that was amazing. So I had a good kind of 3-4 weeks, just put everything down and just let the new book tick over, which was really cool. And started playing a bit more golf and then started running every day and just looking after myself a bit more. And then I was like, right, I need to kind of get on with this now. Like, we don't know how long this is going to last. And, the money pit isn't going to last forever. So then I come up with some more ideas. So I came up with 4 amazing projects, 2 which come out in November. And there's a third one that's just been added. And then I've got 2 which are for next May. But obviously, I don't need to start work on those until like the middle end of August, but I then feel incredibly lazy and I just feel like I'm procrastinating and I'm like, I could get this done, but I work so much better under pressure. I work so much better when I've got a deadline in 4 weeks and I need to complete a book rather than, I've got like 16 weeks to go. The urgency is not there for me. So I find that quite interesting, and it's just then obviously like trying to put other events on as well. I try and be creative and do other things with that, and it's just evaluating everything that's going on in the world right now. But yeah, getting that balance, and I guess it's eradicating that feeling of guilt as well. I think when you actually stop and don't do anything for 5 minutes, it's really easy when you work so hard, like we all do, and like everyone does that listens to this, that you feel guilty you're not doing something. But, you know, just like you said, Daniela, you know, it's good to look after yourself and have that self-care thing. And I've loved doing the running, and it's been amazing. I've loved playing golf, even though I haven't got much better. I'm still awful. But yeah, I think it's just really important of just getting that balance of recuperation, but then also understanding that don't procrastinate too much. You need to keep the cogs going, but it's just finding that balance. I think that's a big thing that I've kind of, I still don't think I've found the answer to be fair. I'll have a couple of days of, this is amazing, I've come up with this really cool idea, and my ideas board is full of these really cool ideas, and okay, we can do that, and that'll be wicked. And then all of a sudden the next time, like, let's play golf, like I am this afternoon.
Amazing. We were talking about this yesterday, about sort of entrepreneurs, and our whole kind of job in life, if you like, is to come up with problems and then come up with the solution to the problem. But sometimes we can see so many problems and so many solutions that it's just like, which one do I actually want to do and which one is my skill set, etc., etc. But you've just reminded me of a joke, and they do say to me sometimes that the guys who watch the show that I'm, you know, I need to sort of tell some more jokes and stuff like this. So this is my one, like I have about 3 jokes, but this is my golf joke. So if anybody ever says I'm not really all that good at golf or whatever, I will say this joke. So, Michael, what's your handicap?
28.
Mine's the club. So I have a really like banal sense of humour, so that's why I don't tell any jokes. But there we go.
Nice.
Anyway, moving on. Laura, what has been your biggest business or life lesson in the last 18, 19 weeks?
Gosh, it's been a long time, hasn't it? Well, actually, mine is in a similar vein, and I think it's probably, we talked about before we came on live, didn't we, that there's going to be so much crossover. But for me, it's linked to self-care, and it's about, for me, it was about the energy that I put into self-care is more important than what I actually do, because what I noticed at the beginning of lockdown was, well, there was kind of 2 scenarios, and it wasn't just for me, and which was really interesting, I noticed it with clients as well, is that suddenly a lot of the practices and things I did to look after myself suddenly taken off the table. You know, I can't go and meet with friends. I can't go to that place. I can't do that thing. And there's this instant feeling of helplessness and almost a grief. And I felt an awful amount of emotions, as I'm sure we all did. And then what I noticed on the other side of that was my usual routines of meditation, yoga, journaling. Suddenly it was like they weren't cutting the mustard, you know, that it was like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. And so I had this feeling of helplessness. And then I had this feeling of inadequacy of, you know, I'm supposed to know how to look after myself. I'm doing all the things and it's not working. Why am I not coping better? And it was kind of, there was a whole process to go through for me of developing, first of all, self-compassion towards myself about that, you know, that actually I'm a human being, and regardless of the work I do and how I help other people, I'm going to go through all those things as well, and that's natural and normal. And sometimes we can't self-care our way out of a difficult situation, and so it was about what can I look for in my environment. So with that helplessness, it was how can I look for really small pleasures, and really developing that sort of fine sense of, you know, just a walk in the garden can be as nourishing as a hike in the forest. You know, that actually if I bring a different energy to it, and I bring sort of 2 qualities really, was passion and curiosity. And when I started to tap into that, suddenly things started to shift, and I started to ask myself a question that I think I'll use from now on is, what do I need right now? And it's a really simple question, but often I found with self-care, when I reflect, is that some of the things I was doing, the practice I was doing, were because, well, that's my routine and that's what I do. Same with exercise. You know, we get into a bit of a rut. We get into a self-care rut. And actually asking myself, what do I need right now? And having this time to slow down to hear the answer, that's been a massive lesson, to be able to tune in a different way.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. I also have sort of found the same, is that the things, they don't work, and one day one of them does work, and then the next day it's just really annoying. So with the meditation, I've flitted between, because Laura, for those of you that don't know, is sort of my meditation teacher. So I first came to Laura and I had all these questions like, what is meditation? How does it work? What should I do? How should I do it? This doesn't work. That doesn't work. Do I need a cushion? I don't like a cushion. I don't, la, 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 la. And it went on until in the end, she was like, just sit, just do what works for you. So sometimes I do the silence and sometimes I do the guided and the open awareness and feeling and everything. And I was trying to do the same thing every day and it just wasn't working. So I was trying to do my morning routine. Like it's 6 o'clock, I do this and then I do that, then I do this. And I was just finding that where we are, that forced-based approach to life just wasn't working for me. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think that's a big thing for all of us, is that even the teachers are always learning. And I think that's a big lesson in life, is always be a student. And as I said to people yesterday and the day before and the day before, have you got your notepad and pen and are you taking notes of what these guys are saying and sharing? Because it's super, super important to always be learning. Like we never are the finished article or product, and every day is a school day, as they say. So yeah, thank you so much for that. Also, as you're joining us and wherever you're watching us from, if you've got questions for these guys, please leave them in the comments and we will come to them as and when. So next question then, Daniela, what would you say has been your second biggest business or life lesson over the last 18 weeks, 19 weeks?
Oh, so I don't know if this has got to do with, well, it most probably has. I think Laura would know more about this. But I suppose ramping up the meditation has kind of led to getting even more connected to my internal voice and just really trusting that. Like no time ever, for me anyway, I feel there's been such a bombardment of messages. So, you know, obviously around the COVID, around the Black Lives Matter movement, and just in general. And it kind of gets to the point of what to believe anymore, you know. So I've been ramping up by just going by what feels instinctively right. So I know we've already mentioned that energy and that new routine. And I know you just mentioned, Abigail, about having that rigidity and struggling with that, so resisting. But yeah, just, I'd say the word that comes to my own mind is like bouncing to the flow, if that makes sense. So I guess it's definitely that, just really tuning into my own voice and being really confident about that and just going with it. So cutting out the white noise, tuning into my internal voice.
Amazing. I love that. It's really interesting, actually, because Yolanda has shared this in the chat on LinkedIn. And this is a conversation and actually an interview that Laura and I have done, because she's saying that she's tried to meditate and she just can't switch off. So this whole kind of interview that Laura and I did about meditation came because I was sort of having this conversation with Laura and about how can we meditate when the world is busy and when there's noise and when there's all sorts of things going on. So perhaps we can kind of come back to that as a question or sort of as a topic in a minute. So Michael, what is your second biggest lesson from the last 18 weeks?
Yeah, so I was having a little think of how to kind of describe this in like a couple of words or a sentence, but I couldn't quite find it. But you never know, we might discover it in the next few moments. But I think something that I found incredibly hard to deal with is all of a sudden these barriers that are put in your way. You know, the freedom of choice of being able to go out and do things was taken away because, you know, quite rightly, we had to protect, you know, everyone within our communities and our families. And I think there was a build-up of frustration that you couldn't go and do stuff. There was the build-up of frustration of my contracts are being cancelled here. There's a build up of, as we're getting towards the other side, fingers crossed, that, you know, I was looking at putting an event on last week, and the costs to put the event on have skyrocketed because the businesses that you need the equipment from have put their prices up, and then the venues, you can't have that many people in. So all of a sudden, for me to put an event on for 100 people in a garden and open space becomes unfeasible, because at the money you would charge a ticket to make it affordable for people to come in, the equipment hire was just ridiculous. You couldn't even do it. So you have to like deal with those frustrations and those hurdles, because a big thing for me is about making a difference, and how can I help people, can I do those kind of things. And, you know, everything that I wanted to do just couldn't then happen. So I was up for election in May to stand as a local councillor for the city council to kind of help my community and make a difference. And then that opportunity got taken away. And I guess it's just adapting, isn't it? And, you know, they say like leopards can't change their spots, but you've kind of got to change, you've got to adapt. And I think it's just working out how you deal with those barriers in a positive fashion. You know, the news just didn't help anyone over the last few weeks. You know, the agenda and the questions at the daily briefings were getting me frustrated, because why, you're a journalist, ask a very simple question that's nice and open and you'll get an answer. And if you don't get the answer, you can push on it. But everyone from Peston to Coombsburg wanted to do a 30-minute essay question of a dialogue as if they were in a William Shakespeare play. And it's like, no, you're here to ask a direct question to get an answer. Give me a straight answer. But they just didn't, and it was just so frustrating. And I think, yeah, learning to deal with that frustration, and it was never a negative frustration in like an anger, but it was a frustration on what actually can I do. And I think it's something we're going to struggle more with as we go forward. And I think businesses will, in the sense of, okay, great, we've managed to get restaurants back open again, but there's all these little hurdles that you have to go over, and it's just trying to deal with those in the best possible way and finding that resilience that gets you through it. Because, you know, I was looking at this event thinking, right, this is going to be awesome, it'll be great to get people together, it will give them a real kind of push, and if it doesn't make a profit, it's not the end of the world, as long as it kind of broke even and made like a little bit, and we could afford to pay the football players to come along to be part of it as well. But it was just so frustrating that we couldn't even get that to work. And it's like, come on, this shouldn't be very difficult to do. It's a screen, a projector, a football match. You know, it shouldn't be difficult. And it's just dealing with those frustrations and hurdles. And yeah, it's just trying to deal with it positively, which I think when you're cooped up and you can't go out for so many weeks, I think that doesn't help, and the pressure gets on your shoulders, and then that has effect on your mental well-being, which is when like the meditation and going for walks comes into play as well. So it's yeah, dealing with those hurdles I think has been tough, and I think it's made me stronger, a bit more understanding, and, you know, having to sit and watch those daily briefings with stupid questions that lead to stupid answers, you know, kind of taught me a lot of how to answer a question in future if I go into my political career. So yeah, a lesson learned there.
And how did you kind of come out to deal with it then? What was your way of coping with this? Did you find yourself turning off the news, or did you start journaling? How did you go for a run? How did you work it out? Because I think this is interesting for people to understand how they can do it.
Yeah, I think for me, it was just a case of, again, going back to that recuperation kind of thing. It's like, right, if I can't physically make a difference here, what can I do to get myself in the right place? So it was going for runs, and, you know, I was being lazy for a little bit, going, right, well, if I can't physically affect on this, I need to just get my head out of the zone. Let's go for a run. Let's go play golf. Let's just chill out for a few days and then come back to it. Because I think otherwise those feelings fester. So for me, I just took myself away from the situation, whether that be the golf, the running, or just going for a walk, or just doing something a little bit different. I tried to avoid just sitting in front of the television watching Netflix as much as, you know, there's some great stuff on there, and watching tons of documentaries and learning and being on masterclass and learning some really cool stuff on there. It was one of those, just taking yourself out of the situation, I found was the best thing for me, and then come back to it and just get a notepad and go, okay, well, how would I deal with that better? But yeah, initially just taking yourself out of it, and so you don't get too wound up.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think it's something that pretty much all of us have had to go through and employed different strategies to deal with it. So Laura, what's your second thing?
Yeah, my second thing comes down to connection and human connection. And I suppose it's that realization for me that it's not just vital, but essential, you know, that you suddenly I mean, I knew intellectually that we're hardwired for physical and emotional connection, and that I knew how much I enjoyed connection with other people. And kind of similar to what Michael's saying, suddenly it's taken away from you. That you can't touch people. This thing we take for granted. You can't hug someone. You can't go and see them. Suddenly, that appreciation for the people in your life and the connections that you have, it was really powerful. And my response to it was to look at, well, what can I do? And so at the start of lockdown, for me, it was about reaching out. How can I reach out and create connection? So I started to do daily live meditations just for free, in my community and beyond, so that people could access it. And actually, it was really quite profound, actually. I had no idea. It's one of those things that I just had that real, I need to do something. I'm not on the front line. I can't go anywhere. What can I do? And the messages I got from people some of them it was really moving how much it meant to them to be able to have that time where you are doing it together. And so the lesson, I suppose, is for going forward, is I want to make sure I tell people how much they mean to you. And I've got a good friend in Australia, and she messaged me today because a really good friend of hers lives in another state, and unfortunately she's just passed away from cancer, and she's been ill through lockdown, and they've been trying to get dispensation to go and see her, and they haven't been able to. And so her husband's grieving on his own, and she messaged me to just, because I've been supporting her through that. And she sent me a message to say, I want you to know how much I appreciate you. We don't say it enough. And I thought, you know what, if we all have a little bit more of that, and we all start to, if we can just hold on to that, I think that will be a really powerful force.
Amazing. That is such an awesome one. Thank you. I think it is so important that we all do remember to say thank you to people, and even reaching out to all the people who have helped you during lockdown. I mean, I know for myself, right, I have no children, but I still did Joe Wicks's workout, and I found it was very good for a discipline, for a routine, just to actually get me doing something. And he made me laugh. So I have repeatedly thanked him on social platforms, in private messages, and he even, makes the time to reply, which is really amazing because he's such a busy person. But just thanking people for what they've done, and thanking them publicly and thanking them privately, because it is sort of the oxygen that we all rely on. We obviously don't do what we do for thanks and praise, but it's nice to be thanked. So I love that one. Such an awesome lesson. Daniela, everyone's moved around. I love this. Tech is just hilarious. I'm hearing from people that it's not really showing up on LinkedIn at the moment, but yeah, I don't know what is going on this week. The gremlins are in the works. Daniela, what would you say is your number one tip that you use in your life when things are uncertain and you're having to overcome a big problem, that you could share with us today that we could try out in our own lives?
So it's the reboot first. So stop, absolutely stop what's in your control. Think about your mental, emotional and physical health first and foremost, and then re-energize. So what is it that you're wanting to do, need to do? What does your energy need to be like to do that? What then can you do to ramp up that energy and then be ready to re-engage? The big wake up thing for that, cold showers, people. I can't say it enough. It's now a habit. So absolutely give it a try.
How long do you do this cold shower thing for? Just talk us through the cold shower thing for a minute, because obviously I'd like to know.
So it's derived obviously from Wim Hof. I know a lot of athletes do that anyway. I've looked through research. So it's called water therapy, I think, if athletes do it, or astronauts. So it does have an app. So you basically, you get a hot shower first, which is great. And then you ease your way into it. So you'd have the shower head maybe around your feet first, and then maybe your arms, and then you go under. So it's only for 5 seconds to start with, then you're up in it, 10, 20, Now it's like 2 to 3 minutes. There's two things that come out of this. So at first, the thing that we're most afraid for is the apprehension of what a cold shower is going to be. Okay, so that puts us off, and that's the same in life. The things that we think about something that are not necessarily true. And then once we go under, it's just about breathing, which allows you then to regulate your emotions and just stay calm. It's like the most amazing thing. And it apparently revitalizes your whole nervous system. For me, it just kind of gives me it's like meditation, a real good sort of head clear out. I can't explain it, but all I will say is now, when I get a hot shower, even if I attempt to get out in the shower, it's like I can't do it. It's such a habit. So give it it's really good for your immune system. It's really good for your sense of well-being and just to feel revitalized. So it's that easy, guys.
Amazing. It's so good to actually know the detail, because obviously I've heard people talking about cold showers. So I actually thought that you just went from the hot to the cold. So I just turned the hot to cold and then stood there like this for 30 seconds going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I did it for about 4 days in a row. And then I was like, this is not fun. I just can't do it anymore. I was like 15 seconds on the front, 15 seconds on the back, then I'm out. So it's so good, like, to understand the actual what it is that you do, rather than just the words cold shower.
And I think that's the thing, Abigail. I love that you did 30 seconds though. That's really brave to start with. It's easing your way into it. So like learning the guitar, it's one thing at a time, and then micro movements, micro steps that steadily builds up. But if you've already done 30 seconds, you're more than halfway there. So how about you start again? I'll hook up with you on Facebook and let's get this cold showering going on.
Yeah, okay. Maybe we do like the August cold shower challenge or something. I've already got this 25-day push-up challenge to do in August.
Yeah, I've seen you on that.
Things going around at the moment. Hilarious. And the people in the guys in the comments are saying no to the cold showers. But,
wonders.
Amazing. I'm just trying to remember what our order was. So let's go to Michael. What would you say is your top tip for dealing with adversity? How do you get through it?
So evaluation is where I go and how I deal with it. So my first thing is I kind of just look at the situation and just kind of deal with it positively. I think if you can deal with adversity with positivity, you're always going to come out better the other side. I remember it was about a year ago in May, wasn't it, Abigail, when we had the little panel up in London, and I'd just been dropped from a contract that I'd had for 5 years. And then again this summer, another contract. Oh, we're not renewing it this year. So yeah, you can either just get negative about it and moan about it and make yourself look like an idiot, or you can be, okay, fine, it's been amazing, I've learned lots, and move forward. So that's the kind of first bit that I do with it, with the evaluation. And then I look at the lessons I can learn. Okay, so what did I do? What did I enjoy? What were the bits to be thankful for? What did I do well? What did I need to improve on? And see what I can take out from that experience to kind of push me forward. And then I look at what can I actually control. In my industry, there's very little I can control. I could be the best presenter in the world, but if the director or producer doesn't think you're right, you're never going to get the shot. And I've had a similar thing this year again. I've been pushing for an opportunity in the right way. I haven't been pushing aggressively, but pushing enough to kind of say, look, I want to crack at this. And the people that make decisions haven't given me the opportunity. So, I have to look at myself. Is there something I need to do? Is there something I need to get better at? Personally, I feel I just need the opportunity. I'm ready, but it's just not come yet. So you need that patience with it. But yeah, I kind of look at that situation and how much can I control? And I think that's a big thing of, I guess it's a lesson as well we can learn from lockdown is taking back that control. What can I be in control of? What can I determine my future? rather than putting it in other people's hands. And then I look at, where do I go next? Okay, so this is where I am. Is the level of control such that I can move in this direction, or am I not in enough control and I need to think about, or can I just move this way for 5 minutes and go the other way? Which is something I'm looking at right now. I've got a couple of calls tomorrow about contracts, of whether they're going to come back or not, and if they don't, could there be a slight change of plan? So I think that's a massive thing, is just having that evaluation period and looking at it and going, okay, this is where I am, this is the situation. Don't get panicked, don't get flustered, deal with it with positivity, look at the lessons, kind of look at what you control and what you can't control, and then just look at that direction of where you go. And a lot of the time you might just carry on and persist and say, I'm on the right path, but it wasn't quite right this time. And other times you go, do you know what, this is the third or fourth time it's happened. As much as I've evaluated it and it's clearly not me, I'm doing the right things and I've asked the right people and got the right feedback, but the opportunity just isn't coming. Okay, what do I need to then do so I can continue to create the happiness? So a big thing for me is evaluation, because that happiness is key. It's my number one goal, and it's the goal that I think everyone should have in life, is to generate happiness. So if you can evaluate in situations, keep it positive, and even if the situation is that you lose the contract and you never work for those people again, just deal with it with positivity, because you never know what's going to come the other side.
Amazing. I love this. And I remember our conversation, and I think I still have the same outlook to everything. And that is always, I think it's a proverb: what is for you will never pass you by. So everything always comes in its time. And we can just keep trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. And then when it's the right time, it's just the right time. But yeah,
no, completely.
It can be frustrating when you're in it and you're learning the lesson. But then, and I think this is what will happen with the corona, is in 4 or 5 years' time, we'll all look back like, oh, I see why that happened now. Thank goodness. And it was Steve Jobs who actually said, you can only join the dots looking back. And I look back now, and obviously maybe a few people have done this as well, like what happened sort of 10 years ago and 20 years ago when I first started my career, and who I was and what I was doing. Because I've also been decluttering and shredding old bank statements. And this is a really, really weird one I was telling somebody about yesterday. I've been shredding bank statements from like my first ever jobs when I was paid £6.50, and looking at things and being like, wow, oh my goodness, I can't believe that this is the journey, and just shredding it with gratitude, that thank you for the steps and for the lessons, and and so clearing space as well for more to come in. So get rid of the clutter. It's been a big one for me. But thank you so much for sharing that. So let's come around to Laura. And before we get to Laura, if you guys watching have got any questions, drop them in the comments. We're going to come back to the one about how to meditate when there's all this distraction going on. But Laura, what would you say is like your number one thing that you do when adversity hits, whatever time of your life?
Well, it's probably not going to come as a great big surprise, given what I do. But I did think of this in the context of where we're at now, because I think, like you've already touched on, we're going to look back potentially and go, wow, this was an opportunity in some ways. And we've had this collective pause. And so my sort of advice right now is hold on to the pause. And, maybe life has already started to take hold again, and you're already having to be out there, and or maybe you're just sort of getting the inklings that things are going to start again. But probably all of us on some level have had to sit in the discomfort of being with ourselves without the usual distractions, the usual ways that we take our minds away. And actually doing that is actually, as Daniela talked about, it's actually the route to being able to understand who we really are and what we want. And it'd be very easy for us to jump back into that distraction culture and jump back into just chasing the next high. And so when I say hold on to the pause, I mean look at how you live each day and find the small ways you can hold on to that pause. Because in reality, for a lot of us, there isn't going to be the option of going, some people will, I'm sure, drastically change how they work, and they won't go back to the office, or they'll change career, or, this will be a massive catalyst. But for a lot of us, it will be business as usual externally, but we don't have to let it be business as usual internally. And that, when I say the pause can be as small, and we're going to talk about this, I guess, with the question of how do you meditate, it can be as simple as 5 minutes a day. That makes the difference, and it turns the dial. It can be as simple as taking an activity you're already doing, but do it with a different mind. So you could have your shower in the morning and do it and be really fully in that shower. Feel the water, feel the soap, feel and notice when your mind gets distracted and bring it back. And it doesn't matter if you notice that you're actually living in your day and not in your shower 100 times. Every time you bring it back, you're training your mind to be present. And that training, like the cold showers, start with those tiny baby steps. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a separate thing that you go off and do. But that pause, whatever it looks like for you, and finding your way is really important. That will make a difference to the decisions you make about how you live your life when you go back to whatever new normal will be.
Amazing. I love that. And sort of one of the things over the last 18 weeks that we did was we did a 28-day self-care challenge. So obviously self-care is something you guys have all mentioned. And in that self-care challenge, we were teaching people how to do something for 8 minutes a day. Laura has recorded 2 of the meditations for us, which are 8-minute meditations. And they are really, really awesome. And it will all be part of my new book that is going to come out in October, which is going to be called The 8-Minute Secret. So it sort of all is tying together, that it doesn't have to be huge things and huge changes, that it is possible. But and I'm going to share my lessons tomorrow, so it's not for me to hog the stage today. But like the big thing in all of this is how we manage our minds in adversity, isn't it? That everything that we knew, or the reference points, the way that we lived before, suddenly been removed, and it has become a mind game. And some of the things that we were used to doing to sort of make things better, we haven't been able to do. Other things that we're used to doing haven't worked as well. But I'm loving sort of hearing all of your answers and how each of you has gone to what's always worked, and then it's not necessarily worked, but you've tweaked it and done things differently. So yesterday I asked the panel if they had any questions for each other. And this was a real sort of left field question that they weren't expecting. So I'm going to ask you guys this question as well. If you have a question for each other based on the fact that you maybe watched each other on the episodes over the last few weeks, you've heard what each other is talking about today. Each of you has a coaching background, so you've all got the inquisitive in you. So have a think. Does anybody have a question? And if you do, raise your hand. And we're going to ask it, and we can do this after Laura's sort of answered the question about how we can meditate while the world is just really busy. We're busy, our mind, we're in overwhelm. What is it that we can do? And maybe Laura, you could just talk us through. Remember, we had this conversation about the science of what's actually happening in our brain, because I sometimes feel personally, when I understand the science, it helps me to get my mind into that state. So you can do your...
Yeah. Well, I think the question which she asked about was, I can't from memory, what she said was that I can't, my mind won't stop. Is that kind of essentially was the essence, was it? And that's probably one of the biggest challenges people have with meditation. I've tried to meditate, just can't switch off. Yeah, exactly. And so fundamentally, that belief that meditation is going to help us switch off is probably where the challenge starts, because meditation is actually a way of just being with whatever is there and then allowing it to settle. And the science that you're referring to is around how we interrupt the stress response in our body. And when we pause and meditate, no matter what activity is in the mind, our only job is to notice and come back to whatever our practice is. So if we're doing a practice, for example, where we're focusing on the body or on the breath, or we're doing any kind of practice, your only job actually is to notice when your mind has wandered. It's not to try and stop the mind from wandering. It's a bit like training a puppy, that you just, keep bringing it back. And when we do that, we we're actually training that part of our brain, that prefrontal cortex of our brain that allows us to have responses instead of reacting. And even sort of 7 to 9 minutes, or even 5 minutes, you actually change your nervous system from being in the stress response to being in the relaxation response. But it doesn't necessarily feel relaxing, because a bit like if you shake up a snow globe, when you stop shaking it, you start to see the snow settle, but there's still snow there. And that's like our mind with thoughts. We stop and we start to settle, and our nervous system is doing its thing and shifting tracks, even if in our minds what we're aware of is the turmoil. And when we interrupt that stress response, we turn chronic stress into a series of acute stresses instead, which has a big difference in terms of the health of our body and the way it affects our well-being. So as you mentioned right at the start, a lot of these topics is tip of the iceberg, but essentially, if you can let go of the idea of your mind needing to empty and switch off, and just accept that that's your mind's job, then you can allow the meditation to just be whatever experience it is, and just be curious.
Amazing.
I don't know if that's helpful.
Well, hopefully that answers Yolanda's question. And I would definitely point you to the whole sort of 20-30 minute episode interview that Laura and I did around this conversation, because I think it is a big one that comes up again and again and again. So guys, do we have a question for each other? No pressure. Laura, amazing.
So my question is to Michael. I'm sensing that there's a big sports background there and lots of interest there. And I'm always intrigued at the way that athletes manage their minds and their mindsets. And I'd love to know how early that started for you. Was this something that you had to develop? What was the evolution of that in terms of how you managed that in your career?
Yeah, I guess it's just having a focus, I think, more than anything. I was very lucky when I played when I was younger. I had an amazing goalkeeping coach, and he taught us so many like really cool lessons and life lessons within that. And I think a big thing with sport is that you're going to make mistakes. It doesn't just happen and isn't just amazing every single time. And I remember I must have been about 12 or 13, and we're doing this session, and all of a sudden I've got the ball, and there's a goalkeeper, and he kind of shouts, saying, "Give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball!" And I've just thrown the football at him. He said, "Why did you give me the football?" And I said, "Because you asked for it." And he was like, "Oh." And he said, like, "What if I had like someone coming to tackle me?" I was like, well, you asked for it. And he went, "You've got to make decisions and choices. And yes, you're going to make mistakes, but you need to make the right decision. And then you need to admit the mistake and get focused. As a goalkeeper, you're going to let goals in. It's inevitable, but you have to look at it in the sense that, well, it's got past 10 other players before it's got to me." But it's just having that mindset of focus, I think, more than anything. It's that determination to succeed. And I think it's not just sports people that have. I think everyone in this panel's got it. And I think everyone's listening. Everyone's got that determination inside. And I think it's just with athletes, it's just another level. I think you just have to have that get up at 4 a.m. with some people that do their training to get to an Olympic Games. And I feel for some of these athletes at the moment that have trained for 4 years, and then now an Olympic Games is not happening. And that takes a lot of mental resilience and a lot of courage. But I think it's just an ingrained focus. When you train so hard, and I guess it's the same with meditation. When you meditate and you get in that zone every single day, it comes and you have that focus, and it just becomes easier because you know how to meditate. And for you, Laura, you could do a meditation like that. For me, it would mostly take me about half an hour, and I'd still be mind buzzing all over the place, and trying to find that center to settle in. But yeah, I think it just is a resilience, a constant with sport. It's constant failure in training. You fail in training and then you get better, and I guess that's something we're all scared of. We're all scared to fall over because but that's how we learn to walk. We fall over and we get up again. And in football, as a goalkeeper, you let goals in training, and you have to learn how to not make that happen. So I think, yeah, maybe from a sports perspective, it's just becomes ingrained with the amount of training you do.
I love that phrase you said, constant failure in training. I think that's fantastic. And you know what? That's exactly the same with meditation, constant failure in training.
Yeah, you do, right? It's the only way you get better. You learn, and you have to fall over to learn, and you have to get back up again and dust yourself up again. I think that's where that laser focus comes in, because if a goal goes in and then you sit on your backside for 5 minutes in training going, it gets you nowhere. You're still sat on the floor. Whereas if you get up and go, right, was my positioning right? Was it my hands? Was it the movement? What did I get right? Did I not get up in time? And it's just a learning process. So yeah, it kind of, that constant learning and failing is important.
Amazing, amazing. Great question, Laura. Right. So to round off this awesome panel today, final question, where can we find you? Where do you hang out online? Let's start with you, Michael. Where is the best place to connect with you?
So I'm all on social media, just at Michael Kern, really easy to find, and then you'll be directed to everything from there. But yeah, if you just go at Michael Kern on Instagram, that's where you'll find me. I just wanted to say thanks to you, Abigail, as well, for the opportunity to come on this, and all the shows you've done over the last few weeks. They've been incredible. So well done to you, and thank you for having us all on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Daniela, where is the best place to find you?
Well, the easiest place to find me is on LinkedIn. So right here on this platform, LinkedIn, or at daniela.com across other platforms. Oh, okay. And Abigail, yeah, thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to tomorrow's show when we can take all those learnings from you.
Yes, eek. Thank you. Laura, where is the best place to find you?
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, mostly at Be Modern Meditation. So you can find me at Be Modern Meditation.
Amazing. Thank you so much to the panel for your honesty, your vulnerability, and your contribution to this conversation. Thank you to everybody who has been with us live. And for those of you who are going to catch up with this on the replay, we can't wait to hear what you take away from this awesome episode. I will see you tomorrow at 11 for the final episode of the first season of the show. This is like the longest season ever, because when we started it, we'd no idea how long this was going to go on for. Most seasons are like 10 episodes. This is 75, but this is 2020. So there we go. Anyway, until next time, stay safe, stay well, keep washing those hands, and if you have to, put your mask on. See you soon.